So today's topic is about giving up custody of your child in order to get benefits. Yeah, you heard that right. Apparently, there are families, there are parents, there are mothers where there are circumstances in which, in order for them to qualify for certain benefits, the state or the programs are requiring them to give up custody of their child. So we're going to talk about this today. Okay? Whew, this one's a little bit loaded. And like I said, I wanted to make sure you got this one. This is important, and I want to talk about what to do about it. So first we're going to talk about the circumstances in which this kind of thing would happen and why. And then we'll talk about what to do about it. All right? So, the first one we're going to talk about is to access residential or institutional care funded by the state. Okay? In some states, Medicaid funded residential treatment or group home care is not available to children unless they are in the custody of the state. So, if you've watched some of my other videos, I keep talking about how you want your child to be approved by disability Medicaid. I keep fussing about how every child that has or has been approved with a disability should have access to Medicaid. And these parents keep talking about, they keep denying the Medicaid. They shouldn't be if they are really disabled and you can prove their disability, because your health insurance won't cover stuff like this. This is a Medicaid funded residential treatment. There are a number of Medicaid funded programs and treatment options for children and adults who are disabled. That's why you want to have your child, be covered for disability Medicaid. So some of these funded residential treatment programs are not available to children unless they're in the custody of the state, unfortunately. So I keep seeing these videos where, whenever the child has all these services and these programs, and the parents are like, well, what do we do? What kind of, can you have somebody come in? And they will be approved for these services. But a lot of times, if the child ages out of the program, depending on the state, the child reaches age 22 or age 26, those services that the parents have in the house, they no longer qualify for because they aged out of it. That's a problem. Parents many times are told they must legally relinquish custody to the state via Child Protective Services or the court system, so the child can receive the care they otherwise can't afford. Yeah. Don't shoot the messenger. I'm telling you, this is what's out there. Okay? Second, in order to qualify for some waivers or services, certain Medicaid waiver programs that pay family members as caregivers may exclude parents from being paid for caring for minor children. So, for instance, in some of these autism groups that I'm in, there are parents who are like, hey, how can I get paid to take care of my child? And that sounds like an odd question, like, who gets paid to take care of their own child? But there are circumstances in which there are aunties and uncles, grandparents who are getting paid from the state, from the government, to care for their niece or nephew or their grandchild, because they are not the parent, but they have, legal custody, or they are the caregiver, the actual caregiver for this child. So, like, for instance, as you know, in the foster care system, the foster parents get paid to have foster children in their care. It's the same type of situation. Okay? But if you're the legal parent, The state's not going to just cut you a check just because you're their parent and parenting is hard. You know what I'm saying? And that's the way they see it. It's like that's your kid. Like, we're not going to pay you. So there have to be certain parameters in place in order for them to cut you a check for your own child. See what I'm saying? In some states, once a child turns 18, they become eligible for more flexible programs where the parents can become paid caregivers. Before 18, parents often aren't eligible to be paid, but non-parent guardians may be, leading some parents to transfer guardianship to access payment. So what'll happen is, say when you have a family where they have an autistic child and they have a really aggressive behavior, they need 24/7 care, okay? And one adult it's too overwhelming for one adult, okay? So say that parent's mother moves in, grandma moves in to help with this child because this is just overwhelming. Mom, could you help me with my child? Won't you live with us so that you can help me with my child that has autism? What'll happen is that parent, the mother, may decide to put the custody in, give grandma the custody. And then what happens is, once grandma is the legal guardian of this child, then grandma will start getting checks and get paid to care for this child, but grandma will sign them over to the daughter. So there are ways that people will do this so that they can get paid. Yeah. It happens. Like people are, you know what I mean? Thirdly, circumstances in which giving up custody may be required due to inflexible state Medicaid rules. Some Medicaid systems are only pay legally unrelated caregivers, which may require that another relative or third party take custody for the child to get services with a paid caregiver. Depending, I guess, on the state programs, the state. This can occur when a parent no longer can work outside the home due to full-time caregiving, but cannot be compensated directly. And so Medicaid is not flexible, and they'll say, nope, sorry. It has to be an unrelated caregiver. So that whole grandma scenario I just gave you, that won't even work. Yeah. Fourth, to prevent institutionalization or neglect charges. In extreme cases, when a parent cannot afford the full-time care a disabled child requires and no home-based supports are offered, states may claim neglect, forcing custody changes. This has happened. So what'll happen is you have this parent with a child that might be damaging. And I've actually seen this in the groups that I'm in. And the reason why I've seen it is because they're posting pictures in the group of windows being broken, appliances being destroyed, walls being, damaged, their own black eyes, collarbones being broken, talking about my 12-year-old did this to me. Okay? My 12-year-old fights me all the time, pushed me down the step, all kind of stuff, right? The child's being abused, the parent's being abused, okay? And so what they'll say is this child is being neglected, or this child is not being raised properly, and so they'll force custody. They'll take the child out of the home. Okay? We've seen in the groups that I'm in, I've seen parents get desperate because they cannot control this child. Cannot control the child. Call 911, not because they want them to take the child away to jail, but because we need help. And the police will come and put handcuffs on their child and take them away. And the parents are like, no, we don't want them to go to jail. And the police will take them into custody and they'll end up in a facility. And once they do an evaluation, especially if the parents or family members or the neighbors keep having to call the police on them, eventually they'll take that child out of, they'll take custody away. This is not due to actual abuse, but due to the parent's inability to provide medically necessary care without outside help. So then you don't legally have the right, once they take away custody, you're not their legal parent. You're not their legal guardian. You don't have decision-making abilities once they take away custody. Real life example. A parent of a child with severe autism and aggressive behaviors cannot work due to 24/7 care needs. Their state offers no in-home supports unless the child is in foster care or under state custody. The parent is then told, if you give up custody, the state can place your child in a treatment facility and pay for it. I don't know why if the state can recognize that the child needs a treatment facility, I don't know why they won't offer that through Medicaid services and programs while the child is still in parent custody. I don't know why, but that's not the way it works. This leaves parents in an impossible position: either go without help and risk burnout, or give up legal rights to get the care their child needs. It's impossible for parents in these cases, because on one hand you're like, I desperately need help. I'm told to apply for this program and apply for that program, and I need the waiver. We talked about the waiver 2 weeks ago, the Medicaid waiver, that may not help me because I may not be approved. Like I told you 2 weeks ago, they already told me that my son won't be approved for that ever. Okay? So what do? This is what you do. You explore all Medicaid waiver options in your state. All the options. Apply for all of them. Okay? But don't hold your breath. I told you that last time. That wasn't 2 weeks ago. That was last week. I want you to consult a disability rights attorney. Okay? Make sure you do your due diligence before agreeing to any custody changes. Because once you give up custody, it's hard to get it back you know what I mean? Don't give up custody and then regret that you did afterwards. And then be like, oh, if I had known X, Y, and Z, I would have never done it. Now, this is my child. Talk to an attorney first, okay? And not just any attorney. It needs to be a disability rights attorney. Okay. Apply for legal guardianship when your child turns 18. I have legal guardianship of my son. Now, I did a video of legal guardianship. I'll drop it in the comments so you can watch that. I'm not going to go into all of that. But basically what legal guardianship does is that it gives you the right, after your child turns 18, it gives you the right to continue to operate as their mom, as their parent, to operate as the authority to make decisions for them. So for instance, Hassan's 26. If, God forbid, something happens medically, for instance, this is one example, and he needs a life-saving surgery, okay? The doctor, because he's 26, will ask him if he wants to have that surgery. And the doctor will explain it to him in a way he can understand. Well, we're going to cut you open and we're going to do this and blah, blah, blah. And that might scare him. He might not understand it. And he'll say, nope, I don't want you to put me to sleep. I don't want you to cut me open. That doesn't make any sense to me. The answer is no. I'm not signing for that. And if I step in and I say, well, wait a minute, he doesn't understand, he has autism, he needs this surgery, I can sign for him. The doctor will always take his word over yours because he's 26. And you can explain to the doctor, he doesn't understand though. He lives with me, I take care of him, he has autism. I'm his mother, let me sign on his behalf. They will not. They're going to take his word because he's a legal adult unless you have guardianship. If you have guardianship, that allows you to make decisions on their behalf. You need that, okay? So apply for guardianship. This may also open new options for paid caregiving. So there are some cases in which parents can get paid to take care of their own child. As long as your child is eligible for Medicaid, keep talking about that, your child should be eligible for disability Medicaid, and they require nursing care level care, nursing home level care. So there are moms who are just like, I'm just so overwhelmed. My child won't sleep at night. All they do is go, go, go. I chase them around the house all day. They throw stuff all day. They scream all day. They cry all day, whatever it is. And they're like, so therefore, I need, whatever. I need to get paid to stay home with my kid because they keep getting kicked out at every daycare or every school. So if I got to stay home with my kid all day, then I need to get paid. That's not nursing home level care. That means that you don't have any control over your kid. Yeah, I said it. That means that you don't have, that's a whole nother video. Yes, autism parents, we do have the ability to discipline and set boundaries and raise our children correctly. We do. Okay. If you don't know how to, go to my website. We can talk about some things. You know what I mean? But that doesn't mean that the state is going to pay you to stay home with your kid because they keep getting kicked out of school. Okay. All right. Look into in-home support services programs. These programs could possibly, depending on your child's behavioral, place on the spectrum, they could pay you to be a caregiver. The structured family caregiving program allows families to be paid to provide care to individuals who need assistance with daily living activities. Parents of children who need care with daily living activities. Okay. Note, some programs require you not to be your child's legal guardian in order to get paid. So whenever you hear other parents talking about, oh yeah, I mean, you can get paid, to stay home with your child. Make sure whenever you see the programs, you read the fine print, because that's not necessarily, and it depends on the program, it depends on the state, it depends on the requirements, it depends on all the hoops they want you to jump through. It depends on the waiting list, what you qualify for, what you're eligible for, what you're approved for, all the things. The first thing you have to do is be approved. Your child has to be approved for Medicaid. Okay? Which is what I keep talking about. Okay? So that's all for today. If you have any questions or comments, let me know. And if you have any more questions about services, courses, classes I have to offer, let me know. I'm going to drop that link in the comments about guardianship, and I'll see you next time. Talk to you soon.